sing a good niggun. It's not my niggun, but I'm working on this project. It's one of the niggunim on the project. This is a niggun by a very special yid named Michael Shapiro. You remember him, right?
Of course. Is this a new guitar?
No, it's a very old one, and that's why I'm having trouble tuning.
Wait, you
went up to Albany when he was
do you know him, Shlomo?
Okay, everybody, shalom uvracha. Thank you so much for coming. And it's a packed night. A lot going on tonight. It's everyone knows tonight's the Yahrzeit of the Alter Rebbe, and it's also the Yahrzeit of the Michtav Melial of Dessler's Yahrzeit is tonight, and also the son of the Sachat Shover is tonight, and today a big tzaddik left the world also, Rabbi Koenig from Tzfat. Yeah, he was I'm sure you remember him. Yeah, Rabbi Koenig is the son of Rabbi Gedalia Koenig from the leading figures of Breslov. Rabbi Koenig, Zecher Tzedakah Kodesh Livracha, was just buried. He was the leader of the Breslov community in Tzfat. I had the privilege of spending a Shabbos with him. Because do you remember when we spent one Shabbos, I think it was Kibbutz Levi, when we just went alone as a family, there was a whole Shabbat Ishtalmut for Mechanchei Breslov in the other room, and their Rav, and the Rebbe was there. And I went up to him. He was suffering for years with his lungs. And he's been suffering for years and years. Anyway, I remember I went up to him at the table. They took all the Rebbe, all the teachers in the Cheder and the Breslov Chadarim, and he had a special Shabbos with them alone in Kibbutz Levi. It was so special seeing the scene over there. There's so much sweetness, and I started talking to him about how his father and Rabbi Shlomo were connected. I remember I had a beautiful conversation with him. It was like a really gorgeous, a regal human being, and he suffered. You wouldn't know, he didn't kvetch, but he really suffered for many years. And anyway, so I wanted to dedicate the learning tonight, L'ilui Nishmato Teorah, and he should be a Melitz Yosher on us. And I'm sure, like my brother-in-law pointed out, He ran right to the Rebbe. he ran right to Rabbi Nachman. So with all, there's so much energy tonight. There's so much going on. I wanted to talk about one simple thing. I wanted to just open our hearts for one very, very simple thing that we know we want, but in the real knowing of our hearts, we know we really would rather not have. And that's miracles. That's nisim. On the level of emet, I want a miracle to happen to me. I want to experience a miracle. Why? Because I believe that if I have a miracle happen to me, everything about my life, all the facets definitely of emunah and his chazkus and all that, definitely will shift upwards. And I think that's what I really need. Miracle. But in the emet la'amito, which is a deeper level of emet, it's not really what I want. What I want is something else. Now these Shabbatot are the Shabbatot of a lot of miracles. Right? How many miracles take place this Shabbos in the Parsha? I mean, 7 is the right, 7 is like the, no, 7 is the right answer, meaning could be 7,000, but we know of 7. And next Shabbos, how many? Right, you have to know the answer to that one. This Shabbos is 7. But what I wanted to see tonight, and I believe the two of you may have been with me when we learned a fraction of this piece, probably 5-6 years ago in Yerushalayim. 5 years ago in Yerushalayim, could it be? Were you around already? 4 or 5 years ago? Mashu Kazeh?
Yeah, this is like rings a bell.
Mashu Kazeh by Rabbi Shlomo, when we learned by Rabbi Shlomo, this very, very important piece, because we always say, if I experienced it, if I just had a miracle take place in my life, what we want, what's a better word besides a miracle that we really want? What's a more accurate word? Hitgalut is what we really want, which means a revelation. Like we keep on speaking about Gale Kvod Malchutcha Aleinu Meira. A revelation of Hashem's kavod is not necessarily a miracle. We want it, right? It doesn't have to be a miracle. Miracle meaning mashu al tiv'i, something supernatural. So I think this will help us tonight understand what it is we really are davening for, and maybe what it is we're not davening for, which is sometimes much more important than figuring out what you are davening for. Mm-hmm. Figuring out what we're really not praying for, what we're not exactly longing for. And as we were preparing, I remember seeing a piece from Rabbi David Aaron. Everyone here knows Rabbi David Aaron? Yeah? Everyone? No? You guys don't know yet? B'ezrat Hashem, you'll know. Rabbi David Aaron is the head and founder of Israelite and also the Rosh Yeshiva of... Right? Where my sister works. Sorry, blank moment. of Oraita. And I found a paragraph, 2 paragraphs that he shared that I wanted us to look at before we actually go into the following piece. But if we're already in the Parsha, I think that it's safe to say that we could use as much help as we can, attempting to really swim through this very, very important topic. Very, very important topic.
Some of the word that came to my mind when you asked for a different term was transformation.
You want to transfer, that transformation is something that happens to you.
Yeah.
So you're davening that you should change. Evanti. Okay, me'achov. All right. So let's go shlav by shlav. This beans you have, yeah? This is the beginning. I wanted to say something that Rabbi David Aaron says. I found it to be just really fascinating and important on many levels. So he says like this: people do not really change by witnessing a miracle. So that already kills it for us, because meaning I want to change from what I experience. So he's saying we don't really change from miracles. Is that true? Yes. If you actually read the Torah, it really, really is true. No one's really changing from miracles. That's not what's getting anybody to change. So he starts off by saying people do not really change by witnessing a miracle. Of course, at first they're strongly moved and seem to change, but the awe quickly wears off and they return to their old ways. This happens all the time. We see this human pattern many times in the stories of the Torah. The Israelites witnessed the 10 supernatural plagues topped off with the miraculous splitting of the sea, and were saved from destruction by the hands of the Egyptian armies. However, not too long afterwards, their faith deteriorated, and they began to complain about their conditions in the desert. Miracles don't change people. Only people can change themselves. That's a very important line. Miracles don't change people. Only people can change themselves. Like if your goal is to change, it's not a miracle that's going to change you. Transformation, right? It's not a miracle, it's not going to make you transformed. Miracles don't change people, only people can change themselves. And to accomplish that, they have to make choices and get proactive. God is reluctant to do miracles because the story of life is about the evolving manifestation of the godliness within us. It's a pretty far out line. God is reluctant to do miracles because the story of life is about the evolving manifestation of the godliness within us. Miracles actually stifle the growth of the expression of the divine from within us, manifest through our choices, our commitments, and our hard work. There's a spirit within us that is restless and demands to be established and expressed. Okay, well, we're going to get back to that later, but that line is very important as well. There's a spirit within us that's restless and demands to be established and expressed. This spirit is the manifestation of the godliness within us that must evolve and emerge, which does not take place necessarily through a nace. That's not what's happening. That's not the result of a nace. There's nothing evolving. There's a momentary and it's gewalt, but it's not causing what he's describing over here to happen. This is, besides one miracle, childbirth, I think, no? What do you think? I love when I say these kind of things. Right? But what do you think about that? Is it a miracle?
Told you, of course it is.
Does it do this? Transformation? I mean, I kind of...
I think so.
It does on some level, but on another level...
No, right? It's very...
Then the, exhaustion... Like
then this happened, right?
Exactly. It's still reality. So.
Plus, it's become very humanized. It's what we do as humans. Everybody does.
Not everybody.
No, but people have babies. You see it every day. Thousands of babies are born. It's...
Nachon, but the act of what happens during childbirth, it seems to be...
I think the whole process is a miracle.
Yeah, you don't really feel that when you're like kvetching in your 9th month out of a discomfort.
I think like anything that you go through in life that's a next stage of your life changes you on a new path, but it doesn't necessarily change your everyday. Like you get to a new level and then you experience life from that level, and life is still life.
But what doesn't it do?
It doesn't. It's not like the clouds part and
Right.
the sun is shining and all the different.
I think that's the right. So on that level, right? So the miracles I think he's referring to is dam tzvardea kinim. That is barad. That definitely is the other type of miracle. This spirit is the manifestation of godliness within us that must evolve and emerge. This is why the miraculous desert was not the destination of the Israelites. It was only part of their process and journey. Now, I'm jumping ahead here, but who do you think failed in this big time with this understanding of what real godliness is all about, and it left its mark in a really, really heavy way? The Meraglim. Their thing was, Eretz Yisrael is not this. So that means either, we're not ready, or the land isn't ready. But because their interpretation of Eretz Yisrael was, it's less cool or less miraculous, which is true. It's less miraculous than the desert. Much less miraculous than the desert on the miracle level that we're speaking about over here. And we're going to get back to that in a second. But I just wanted to stress here, I found this piece to be really important, especially the line that he keeps on saying. The spirit is the manifestation of Elokut within us that has to evolve and emerge. That does not happen with a miracle. It never happened with a miracle, It's not the nature of miracles. And maybe this is why Chazal always tell us, in a place where Hashem doesn't want to do a miracle, would rather not do a miracle, He always would rather not to do a miracle. You would think, what do you mean, Hashem? You could show how cool He is. But Hashem's whole inyan in this world is not showing us how cool He is. He's showing us how close He is to us and how much He loves us. That doesn't happen through miracles. So then the obvious question is, so why did He do any miracles bichlal? If that's not it is. If Hashem would rather not perform miracles, then why did He do it bichlal in the first place, like we see throughout the Torah, HaKadosh, and why doesn't He do it today? So what do you think the difference is on a very pshat level? Why did He do it then? Like, why did He do it over here? Who are the miracles for? Us or the Egyptians? Good question.
For a lot of conversation than the Egyptians.
Sorry?
For a lot of parishes, there's for the Egyptians.
Well, according to a lot of the pshat, the language is leman yed'u, which is referring that the knowledge of Hashem running the world should be by these kofrim, which were really the Egyptian monarch. It was this world of kfira. So a lot of it seems to be that it was about the Egyptians, but obviously we know that it was happening to us as well. Some level of dat was being inserted into us as well. I think about this all the time, and it's a very bad example, but it's just my experience here and my memory of being a kid. I was younger than you, like, and I lived here during the Gulf War, and right? No, you were.
I remember getting candies to go into the.
Mama,
my parents like
right.
candies to go in.
I remember giving candies.
Yeah, I remember giving.
Were you here? You weren't here yet.
I wasn't here.
You weren't here. You, of course, were here. Shem, were you here?
No, I was not here. My parents were here.
You weren't here. Chamasara, you obviously remember.
Oh,
It was. I was living in Ranan as a kid. Now the Scuds were being shot more closer to where we lived, and we felt my building. We lived in an apartment building. The building shook. Mama shook every time they had this Patriot missile. Remember the Patriot missile was supposed to intercept it, and it hit my school, one of them, because it missed the Scud. It fell in my school. The long story, whatever. But you know them. I mean, talk about miracles. How many Scuds were shot at the heart of Eretz Yisrael? Oh, I think, was it 39 or 40? Yeah, it was all. 39. Yeah. Not one person was killed directly from the Scuds. There were 3 korbanot, I think, from heart attacks.
One suffocated.
Or suffocating from the gas
Didn't
mask.
take the thing out.
Right. But the point is, the point of that is as follows, though. I remember, like on a miraculous level, like those miracles, right? But then I remember that same week, they shot one Scud into Saudi Arabia. It hit a building and killed 25 people. Mamash. What's the effect of that? But what's the effect of it? You would think that would be enough to affect in such an incredibly powerful way. But somehow these things are not what really cause us, for some reason, to see things and evolve and experience Hashem differently, and definitely not to experience ourselves differently, because we don't do anything. Hashem's not so much interested in like experiencing Him differently. It seems that what we were saying over here is that Hashem is interested in that we experience the elokus, the godliness that's within us differently. Miracles won't do that. It just won't do that. So now let's go back. According to this pshat that we said, who are the miracles for in, let's say, Parshat Bo, Va'era and Bo?
It's Mitzrayim.
It's for the Mitzrayim? Based on what we said?
I think it was for Yehudim.
Right, now it seems that it might be...
That's saying, well, Hashem is not that. That's gone.
Nachon.
Hashem's not that. Hashem's not that. Hashem's not this. Not that.
Now it seems that it's more for us. What am I doing with it?
Taking away everything that
Isn't.
we relied on.
Nachon.
Living there.
Nachon. So this following piece that is from Rabbi Shlomo, I mamish remember exactly where I was when she was transcribing this piece, and I remember realizing, I was feeling that I don't have to learn anything else the rest of my life after I learn this piece. Not kidding. And you'll see why. It'll be very clear. Rabbi Shlomo says like this. Moshe Rabbeinu says to Hashem that when he will come to the Yidden to declare the beginning process of freedom, Velo yishme'u li, they won't believe him. That's his ta'ana to God. So Hashem says, okay, let the level of the redemption be on the level that I can do it and show them miracles. When does this take place? Last Shabbos, right? In Shmot. When Hashem tells him, here's your gig, he says, they're not going to believe me. Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, oh yeah, check this out. With the two major ones there were the staff, it became a nachash, it became a snake, and also, of course, his hand, that he puts it into his, cheko, and it comes out, and it's mitzorah kasher.
There was also the blood with the water. Then he took a little bit of water.
Oh, nachon, very good, nachon me'od. Now, what are those things? What are those three things? Miracles. They're pashut miracles, right? They didn't really happen to anybody, but they are. Hashem is saying, it's gonna be like this. So now look what happens over here. Rabbi Shlomo says like this. Miracles show that Hashem can do anything, but that is not what redemption is all about. Redemption is not about what God can or can't do. So Moshe Rabbeinu thought that he ruined the whole thing by telling God that they won't believe him, and therefore God reduced the redemption to the level of miracles. Does this make any sense? You hear where he's going with this? Moshe Rabbeinu, at a certain point, realizes, oh my gosh, I lowered the concept of Geula by telling Hashem that they're going to need miracles to be impressed and to believe in him. He didn't say in those words, but he understood by Hashem's response to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu says, they're not going to believe me. So Hashem says, you know what? Okay, let's pull this one out of the sack. Right? That's how we're going to get them to believe you. And it's true, meaning that was the beginning process. But we see that it really took much more than just some miracles to take Yidden and have the godliness in them evolve and grow. Well, one of the reasons may be because they started the redemption from a place of witnessing miracles as opposed to something else, which we're going to get to in a few minutes. But I just want to explain, again, Moshe Rabbeinu thinks maybe what I did was I lowered the gadlut of the concept of Geula. By how? Lowering it to a level of Hashem needing to perform miracles in order to get people to be with him. Now, have you heard any of the Rishonim or Achronim talk like this? Did you see this parish anywhere? Shana, did you ever see this? It's a completely different. This is something so far out, and we'll see how he develops this.
Maybe that's why Hashem got angry.
Like, why are you minimizing what I can do? Or why? No, you're not minimizing. Why are you not minimizing?
You're lowering the redemption. That's a pretty serious offense.
Or knocking B'nai Yisrael.
Isn't he knocking himself?
No, because he was with Hashem. And the truth is, if you think about it, how did he get to be with Hashem in the beginning? I think through miracles. No, the Sne Bo'er and then Ukal, that's not a miracle. There's a burning bush and it's not a consuming fire. So Hashem is kind of like silently saying to him, "What did you need in order for me to get your attention in the beginning? I appeared to you through a bush. That's not miraculous. Of course, everything about me is miraculous." Anyway, we're going to develop this. You'll see. Bezrat Hashem. So it continues like this. God has all kinds of revelations. There's a revelation that it has to be clear to everyone that God can do anything in the world. There's nothing in the world that God cannot do. But my connection to God is so much deeper than that. My connection to God is not because God can do anything. I know God can do anything. But this is not the revelation of redemption. The revelation of the redemption is that I can cry to God and God hears me. Do you remember this now? That? Do you hear what he just said? This is one of the most profound statements I've ever heard in my life. When you stop and think of this, is there a greater privilege to have in the world? Meaning, what is greater than the biggest miracle in the world? That we actually dive into Hashem and we know that He hears us. That's a greater revelation than splitting of the sea. Now, how do we know that was really what happened? That's really the beginning? Because how did the Geula really begin?
God heard the cries.
Vayishma Elokim etnaka. That was really the beginning of the redemption. Not so much, I'm going to start doing these miracles. Even before the whole hitgalut of Moshe Rabbeinu by the sneh, what happens? Yidden are crying. Their crying reached. So he's going to build a whole thing based on what we just said right now in a few minutes. Anybody can give me orders. The president can give me orders. I don't have to listen to it. God can give me orders and I have to listen to them. But do you think Torah is only about taking orders from God? Well, certain people do. But that's definitely not what we're into. Meaning, that's not what defines a relationship with Hashem. The first step of the redemption was the praying. Vayiz'aku b'nei Yisrael el Hashem. My first connection to God is because God is master of the world. The first connection to God is because God listens to me. The first message was not, I'm redeeming you. You have it? Mazel tov. My first connection to God is because God listens to me. The first message was not, I'm redeeming you. If you read the portion properly, you'll realize that the first message of Moshe to the people of Israel was that God heard you cry. If you go into the pasuk, to the psukim, that's exactly what Moshe Rabbeinu tells Am Yisrael. He doesn't say you're being redeemed. He starts off by saying, Hashem heard you. And that is the beginning of redemption. That is what redemption is all about. It's not miracles. It's not like, we can pull this off. He can do anything. We know that. But that doesn't make me feel geulatic. Doesn't make me feel redemptive. I had a conversation today with someone. Mamish broke my heart, but the person has very, very legitimate reasons for just staying away from Hashem. Just staying. Very legitimate reasons. From just staying away, keeping distance. What was amazing, though, is the person kept on saying, I know Hashem can do anything. Like, I know Hashem is everything and can do everything. I just need my distance for whatever the reasons were. What we crave, what mamish our neshamas crave, is the level of closeness that I know that I'm being heard. And Moshe Rabbeinu tells Am Yisrael, guess what? It worked. That's what he's telling Am Yisrael. They might not know it, because the Torah tells us last Shabbos that this was happening by Hashem. Hashem heard this, but no one told Am Yisrael that they're being heard. Moshe Rabbeinu, the Redeemer, he comes to Am Yisrael. What's the first thing he tells them? You're being heard. That's redemption. Imagine, fourth line, imagine it'll be clear to us that each time I pray, God hears me. You would mamish taste redemption. When we daven, and this is so beautiful, first we say, Ga'al Yisrael, right before Shemona Esrei, right? What does that mean? What is Ga'al Yisrael? Redemption, Geula, Redeemer of Israel. And only then do we start the Shemona Esrei. This is what redemption is. That I know I can pray and Hashem hears me. This is what we do in Shachris and in Maariv. We first, what do we say? You are a redeemer. And since you are a redeemer, since this is who you are, Goel Yisrael, Ga'al Yisrael, only because I feel redemption am I able to actually start praying to an entity that I can't see, hear, feel, touch, oh, I shouldn't say feel, but touch, literally. But because I believe right now that this is Geula, then I could talk. It's like the greatest thing in the world. I could actually talk. Like, that's what he said over here. If we actually really were aware of what we do when we daven, we would always mamish taste redemption. Because what are we doing when we daven? We start talking to the entity that created the whole world and every human being. And that's recreating it all the time. And somehow we feel the ability that we could interact with that entity. But we don't stop and think about this before we start davening, because we're just so used to davening. But where does it come from to feel that you have access to this? Because you believe the Rebbeinu Shalom is a Goel. Geula, that's what Geula is, that you feel close enough. And that somehow you know your tears will be seen. Your crying will be heard. That's how the first Geula began, and that's how any future Geula takes place in the world. Like, so notice this. Those of you that didn't daven Ma'ariv yet tonight, notice it tonight. And in Shachris tomorrow, notice. You're going to say, Baruch Atah Hashem Ga'al Yisrael. And then you start saying, Hashem es fazati dechel fi agit iratecha. Why? Chazal knew exactly what we were doing. It's exactly the Inyan, is that you have to be a Geula Dikayit to talk to God. There's no other way. You can't make it without it. So, really, we have that, because otherwise we wouldn't pray. If we didn't believe Hashem hears us, we probably wouldn't daven. At a certain point, how much can you do it because you're told it's the right thing? How much can you do it? At a certain age, right? And even you could be 13. You could be 39. You could be 68. You could be 80. It doesn't matter when it happens to you, but if you believe Hashem listens to you, Ata shayach ledor hageula. Simple as it is. And that's what happens when we do Shemona Esrei.
You just answered a question that came to me last week that I'm more than 69, that we say Ga'al Yisrael and then 2 minutes later we're saying Go'el Yisrael, and I think you just answered it, that Ga'al Yisrael, okay, that was great then, but he's still doing it, which means
right.
he's still connected to
Very good. Meaning, since I know, like I'm stating a fact of you took me out of Mitzrayim. Why did you take me out of Mitzrayim? Because apparently Moshe Rabbeinu told me, you heard my tears. So since that's true about then, Go'el Yisrael, Ribono Shalom, listen to the tears today. Listen to the crying today. You're still doing it. People actually believe that if they cry, you hear them. Shlomo was saying, that is redemption. You feel like a redeemed person when someone hears your tears. Now that's true, obviously, about the Ribono Shalom, but that's true about people as well. I had another conversation. I've been having some heartbreaking conversations. I had another conversation. A person told me that what the hardest thing about their life is that they know they're loved by a lot of people, but they don't feel like they're anybody's number one yet. Obviously, this person's not married yet, but the conversation was about, like, in Bichlal, this feeling of, like, in their own personal gullus, because they don't feel like they're number one by anybody, even by Hashem. They don't feel like they're number one. In whose eyes are you number one? The person that gets you, that hears you, that can really sense what you're crying about. Even if you're not crying, they hear what you're going through. Those type of relationships, I don't know how many of you have that in your life, with friends, with spouses, with family, those that can really hear your tears, even without you even crying them. You know what the worst is? When you actually pour it all out to someone that you think hears you, and then you realize they don't. It's the worst thing in the world. It's not their fault, they're just not.
They're lip bugs.
Oh boy. I wish there was a delete on here. It's okay.
She didn't mean it.
No, it's all that was your chicken, you know. But that's we'll figure out a way to but that's a really in all seriousness, like You know, you ever really prepare yourself very intensely to go and share your heart with someone, and then you do, and it's not there?
Good. Thanks, that was nice.
Right? It's really like a mob. It's a mabul. It's a mabul. It's a flood. It's you feel like you're in Galut. That's exile. You feel so not what you thought you were going to feel. And then you have moments where someone doesn't have to tell you, I heard you, but you could see the way they look at you, say, I got you. You don't even have to talk. Now, I guess that Am Yisrael never had a revelation by God, until Har Sinai, right? When did Hashem talk to Am Yisrael? He didn't talk to Am Yisrael. And even while he's doing the Makot, he's not talking to Am Yisrael. Of course, he's sending messages to them. But Moshe Rabbeinu's Geula, Besorav, Geula, his how do you say Besorah? His yeah, we've tried a few times to figure this word out in English. His bearing of good news. Right, it's true. It's pretty close. His what he had to share in the world was that you'll see soon that he heard you. You are actually going to see it, but my job here is to tell you that he told me that he heard. Now, how are you going to hear it? Because he's going to bring you to Har Sinai, and then you'll see. By the way, there's a beautiful, beautiful Torah in Slonim. I saw it years ago. It says, V'chol ha'am ro'im et ha'kolot, right? By Matan Torah. That they saw voices, and everyone's trying to understand what that means. So the Slonim Rebbe says, basically happened, what was Mount Sinai, the whole thing of Mount Sinai, was Hashem basically pressed play, and he had all their kvetches and cries recorded all those years in Galus, and he pressed play at Har Sinai, and they saw basically all the kvetching they ever did about why is it so hard to be a Yid? What does this mean to be Am Yisrael? And that was Kabbalah Satorah, that Hashem showed them their voices, that all your kvetching, your cries, I heard everything. I heard it all. I thought that Torah is very shaykh to hear as well. Okay. So then Hashem says, V'gam ani shamati es na'akas b'nei Yisrael. This is what Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, right? V'gam ani shamati et na'akas b'nei Yisrael. I also heard the crying of the people of Israel. So the question is, what is this V'gam ani shamati? It's a very weird language. V'gam ani shamati. And also I heard. What is the Lashon? You know what the Lashon could have been? What could have the pasuk said?
I heard.
Shamati. Ani shamati. V'gam ani shamati et na'akat b'nei Yisrael. All the Mefarshim are trying to understand what this means. So he says like this. Amazing. When I'm suffering, I don't only want to be helped, I long to be heard. I want someone to hear me. So Hashem says, V'gam ani shamati. The Rebbeinu Shalom says, I, Master of the world, I heard their crying. Meaning, I didn't just help them. I'm not just going to help them. That's what he means, V'gam ani shamati. Not just, I'm going to take them out. I heard what they're crying about. That's really what it means. Tell them, not just that I heard them crying, I heard what they're crying about. This connects very much to what we learned this Shabbos in the Apta Rebbe. Mm-hmm. Remember, it says, Vayanchu min ha'avodah. What was really, they themselves realized that their crying in slavery wasn't just, Aya, it's so hard for me, but more, Aya, it's impossible to be a real Eved Hashem like this. And the Apta Rebbe says, when you're crying, is more about the fact that it's so difficult to be a real Yid, as opposed to, it's just painful. That's Geula. You bring Geula as well. So the V'gam ani shamati, Moshe Rabbeinu was being told by Hashem, tell them, maybe they're not even aware of what they're crying about. I'm aware of what they're really crying about. Shechina. That the Shechina is in Galus. That's what, Yossi, were you there? That's what they're really crying about. Ani shamati. I heard what they're crying about more than they even understand what they're crying about. So he says like this, and It's amazing that we chose to learn here tonight, and tonight, Liba has worms. When little children cry,
That's a good video.
when little children cry, they don't just want to cry, they want to be heard. At night when they cry, parents who come in and ask, what do you want? Are in an exile relationship. Meaning parents and children. They're in an exile relationship from their own children. In exile also we still believe that God can do anything, but we don't have this closeness that I just want to cry to Hashem. He's saying over here something really startling. He's saying when a child is crying, even if something's bothering them, the last thing really that a child wants to hear is, tell me what's bothering you. That comes later. First is, come here, I hear you. Come here, I hear you. Then you can tell me. Then the child would actually cares to say what's bothering them. But the first level, so he says, when a parent comes into a room in the middle of the night or whatever it is, and you're crying, what is it? Because we're trying to fix things, right, all the time, right? But the much bigger level of fixing is just saying, I hear you crying. I hear you crying. He's saying that's what happened over here.
It's like that story that you tell about the little girl who gets lost and goes to the police station.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story. You know that story? A little girl gets lost. She's on the street corner, and a policeman finds her, and she's crying her eyes out. They're barely able to calm her down. She finally can't calm down. They ask her, who are you? What's your phone number? Take her to you can tell when this story took place. They pull out a nickel, they put it into a payphone, and they get the number out of this girl's mouth, and she calls her mother, and the mother is so startled. Oh my God, sweetest, what happened? Where'd you go? Where are you? I'm gonna come get. So the girl says, Mommy, I have no idea where I am, but you better come and get me. That's what it's like we always think we have to tell Hashem, okay, this is where I'm holding, this is what I'm dealing with, and from here, come and take me. As opposed to saying, you could do this. Like, this is what the whole point of, like, God being a non-physical entity. Hashem Yisbarach, I have no idea. I know maybe sometimes I think I know where I am. Even though I have no idea where I am, I feel close enough to cry out to you that you better come and get me. That was the cry. Because I know you're going to come and get me. Right? Because I know you're going to come and get me. That's Geula. That's the whole point of this teaching tonight. So, let's continue. Eretz Yisrael is Eretz Asher Einei Hashem Elokecha Ba. It's the land where God doesn't take his eyes off us. Yes, Eretz Yisrael is the land of miracles, but it's so much deeper than that. Now this is very important. He says Eretz Yisrael is the land of miracles, but it's so much deeper than that. Meaning that's not really what I feel Eretz Yisrael is all about. It's much more than that, because that's still not Geula. Miracles are not Geula. Closeness is Geula. Miracles are not. Eretz Yisrael is the land of miracles, but it's so much deeper than that. When you're looking for your soulmate, are you looking for someone who will do anything you ask? There can be someone who can't really do a thing, but I can't take my eyes off her. Meaning, the same thing when it comes to what you think you want. Whoever just wants someone that'll be like a miracle worker, and just keep on doing everything that you ask for, you know what happens to that? You take your eyes off of them. Because it's not that precious to you. It's miraculous, but you don't evolve. Nothing about you evolves in that kind of relationship. Then you could have a situation with someone that bichlal can never, ever get your favorite Shabbos dish right. Ever. And you're married b'simcha for 55 years because you could care less if they were able to make a miracle and get you. It doesn't matter to you. It's something else. You just feel a closeness to the person that's so much more important than the concept of being a miracle worker and getting all these things right. Now he gets to the Meraglim. You think the spies were crazy? They had clear prophecy. They saw Churban Abayis, they saw blood from Yerushalayim to the four corners of the world. And do you know what else they saw? They saw that on the level of Torah and mitzvahs, we don't deserve it yet. Ki chazak hu mimenu, which is true. On the level of where we were holding, that was right. They felt that if Yidden want to come to Eretz Yisrael based on their own credit, they can't come in yet. So what was the mistake? Like, what was their mistake? Is that you don't go to Eretz Yisrael because you deserve it. That's not what coming to the Holy Land is all about. The spies thought Eretz Yisrael is the land of miracles, but that's not what Eretz Yisrael is all about. Redemption is something else. Did you understand what he did with the Meraglim over here? Does everyone understand this? It's very important. It's not so clear?
No.
Does someone want to attempt to give it over, what he did with the Meraglim?
They didn't want to go in because they thought they knew what was going to happen. They knew that it was going to be bad eventually. So it was like better just to stay in the good and not grow and not,
What's the good?
the midbar.
The miracles.
They're doing mitzvahs, and
That was the Indian.
they didn't have mitzvahs, and so they saw that they couldn't. They felt that they couldn't go into Eretz Israel because they had no mitzvahs.
Nachon.
They hadn't earned it.
They didn't earn the credit,
And
right?
They didn't earn it, and therefore they couldn't hold on to it because they had no.
When really, how do you hold on to something?
Let go.
By crying. Like that's what he keeps on coming here. He said, if the Meraglim would have come there, and you know what, their prophecy would have told them it's true. It's going to be hard. You're losing all the miracles, and here you're going to struggle. This and that. But at that moment, what would have been the Meraglim's response while they're in Eretz Yisrael? Ribbon Shalom, how can we not come in here? We were slaves for all these years. How can we not? We have to be in here. Can't you see that we're nothing without this land? Then, this is all hypothetically speaking, then it seems that what this Mahalach would say, that would bring that own level of Geula in that moment over there as well. There'd be a level of, v'gam ani shamati et na'akat ha-meraglim. I hear the crying of the Meraglim. But for some reason, as holy as they were, and this is really scary about today's generation, as holy as they weren't Geula Yidden. But they were Kodesh, they were Kedoshim, but they weren't redemptive Yidden. Now that's a heavy statement. I know that's a loaded statement, but it just seems to be the parallel. You have to understand the Meraglim were Kodesh, Kodeshim. We have no idea. They were the heads of the Shvatim. The level of Nevuah, Rabbi Shlomo once said, they're like Moshe Rabbeinu people. They were here. But what? You see, Geula is much deeper than just miracles. Geula is, do you feel the sense that if you cry over something right now, Hashem will hear you or not? That's how the Geula began. That's what every level of Geula will be as we go along. Okay.
Or in the part where he said, not without deserving, right? It's not because we deserve it. This isn't going to happen because we deserve it.
Right, if we wait for that to happen, right. I don't know how much longer we're going
I
to...
believe that Hashem is going to...
Yeah, I don't know how much...
give it to us anyway.
Mamash. Okay. Now let's go back to the beginning. At the end of last Parsha, Moshe Rabbeinu can't understand what's going on. After going to Paro and giving him God's word, the situation will only get worse and darker. Lama hareosa lama zeh, God, why are you making it so hard? Lama zeh shlachtani, why did you even send me to Paro in the first place? Did you send me to make it worse? Because that's what it seems like was happening. So Hashem says to Moshe, now you'll see what I'm all about. And it's like amazing. The ending of Shmot is it's even more epic than the ending of Miketz, where you're left at a cliffhanger, where, at that moment, the Gavia is found by Binyamin, and Yehuda says, oh my God, we're doomed. The Parsha ends, right? But last Shabbos, when it ends off, Atatir now you're going to see. This week of Shmot Va'era is a week of we're about to see. Atatir. Now you're going to see what it's all about. So, what do you think? What do you think is the atatir based on everything we learned right now? Is that atatir could be that what's going to be revealed to Moshe Rabbeinu to then pass on to the Yidden is that you have to let yourself be shocked as to what's considered really precious in my eyes. If you're just glued to what you think works without being open for hitchadshut, I could do every miracle for you in the world, but you're stuck in galut. Atatir means now you're going to see, but that means are you open enough to understand that things may work differently than the way you think they have to work. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu, a theme in his life is he keeps on being reminded that things, even as much as he thinks they have to work, once he rids himself from the notion of it has to be the way that I understand it, that's how another level of redemption happens in his life. Like I'm sure the women heard Bina tell over the Torah, in Chassidus it's brought down, Shana alecha ma'araglecha, remember? The beginning of Moshe Rabbeinu's leadership is remove your shoes from your feet. Na'alecha is the manulim, the locks, that which you're locked to, hammered down to, it has to be. Regel comes from the word habit. So remove the locks off your habits. Remove the way that you are certain redemption happens. Once you're able to remove the way that it has to happen, can something actually happen and do something to you? So that's very interesting. Where are we right now in the world and in life? How do most of us think Geula has to happen? Or do we even have a consensus about this at all? I don't even know anymore. It used to be that the magic flying carpet was a pretty common, imagery that was very much mekubal abriot. But what else is there? Like, how do we think Geula has to happen?
You're rich.
What's that?
Rich.
To be rich. What do you mean?
People think that money, if you have more money, you're more successful.
Oh, meaning your own personal... No, I'm talking about...
No, in the world now.
That, what do you mean?
Living in a world of money.
Right.
That money, like
Kovea.
Yeah.
Right.
Where you are.
So wait, so I want to understand what you're saying. So you're saying, איך זה קשור לגאולה עצמה? תגידי בעברית.
לא, בסדר. לא, כי אם יש לך מלא כסף, אז אתה בעצם מצליח. אז זה בעצם, אתה מראה לעצמך שהצלחת בסופו של דבר. זה סוג של גאולה עצמית.
So how would that work on a...
זה העולם המודרני שאנחנו חיים בו, שכסף זה הדבר הכי חשוב. שאלת, איך אנחנו?
No, so how does that work on a national level, what you just said? The more...
I think we're in a modern, we're different. That our life right now
it's
is
true,
modern.
but I will point out something really sad. You ever notice the achievements that the head of the state of Israel points out about Israel in the last 5 years? Yossi, don't get mad at me. I'm going to an area. Yossi gets mad at me sometimes when I go here. Don't get nervous. What are the contributions we've given to the world? Ways. We 6 million were slaughtered so we could come here and become a high-tech capital. That's mamash what it's about, right? So I think that maybe like the concept of getting rid of thinking like on a national level of what it means to come back here and be redemptive people, we might have been, we missed a few, we missed a few memos, we missed a few things on the way about what it means to be redemptive people and how Hashem's going to do the redemption. Whatever, I'm talking to myself also because I have this bug in my head about all Yidden have to come home. They just have to come home, right? And besides shluchim, they should stay wherever they are because they're pulling the last few people that I still don't know they're Jewish, whatever. But everyone else has to come home, right? What do I know? I think that, it's what my heart tells me. And even if I'm right, I feel like this Torah is telling us, let go of what you think has to be. Whether that ends up happening will not happen because you're so certain that this is the way it has to happen, right? Are you close enough to Hashem to cry out to Him and say, even though I think this is right, I have no idea by now. I think that after all the miracles you did for Am Yisrael after 1945, that it would be enough for us to realize what it is we're supposed to be doing. But apparently, I guess I have no idea. And those that came here aren't doing a good enough job as being good PR spokesmen for the land of Israel. So, Shal na'alecha na'al raglecha. Why? Because I want Hashem to tell me, Ata tir'eh. Now I'm going to show you what it's all about. But it starts by ridding ourselves of from thinking whatever I thought is the right way is the right way. So now let's go back inside. The bottom paragraph. Our portion, sorry about this typo on the bottom, our portion begins with Hashem saying to Moshe, I want you to know, I revealed myself to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov by the name of Shin, Dalet, and Yud. But to you, Moshe, I reveal myself with the name Yud and Hey, Vav and Hey. The name Shin, Dalet, and Yud stands for, very good, stands for She'amar le'olamo dai, the one who told his world enough. Creation. She'amar le'olamo dai. It's the name of God that keeps the world together. It's like the Scotch tape of the world. It's very interesting. It's like She'amar le'olamo dai, and that's. It's one thing to believe that God can do everything. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov believed that God can do everything. Redemption is not that I believe God can do everything. It's so much deeper than that. It's not that God shows you I'm stronger than Paro. That's not the point. The revelation of the name Yud, K, Vav, and K is not what God can do or can't do. It's much deeper than that. Redemption is not what God can do. Redemption is so much deeper. You know where redemption comes from? From being close enough to cry. I obviously left the most difficult piece of this teaching to the end, right? Because let's understand this. How does this add up? What's the difference between the revelation of Hashem's name of Shin and Dalet and Yud to the revelation of Hashem's name of Yud K, Vav K, based on what we learned right now?
So when I put on my tefillin, I put it on 3, then space, and then 4, and that's Shin, Dalet, Yud, and then Yud and K and Vav and K. And then, so it's the first revelation of Hashem that Hashem puts the world together, holds the world together.
Which is miraculous.
Which is miraculous, and it's distant away from me.
Which is miraculous.
Then then through Yud and Yud K Vav K, then after that is when you tie it onto your hand, which is intimacy. That you go from the process of a miraculous God that's far away to an intimate God that's close to you, that hears you.
Wow, that's beautiful. I should start putting on tefillin like you. That's beautiful. Now I'm going to take what Shilin said and try to like...
Who taught you that?
Who taught me that?
Yeah, that's it.
That's a Masorah of how to put on your tefillin.
It's funny, I do that here.
Of Shin, of 3 up
You
here
don't
with
do
a
that
gap.
here?
I do a Shin on my hand.
No, but then the Dalet and the Yud?
And the Dalet and the Yud.
Yeah, that you do.
But the space, there's a Masorah to do 3 and a gap and then 4 instead of 7.
Never heard that. Wow. Never heard that. It's beautiful. Yes?
Wow.
You know, I'm just thinking about this as we this last piece of here, and we'll wrap up with this. Is that do you find, unless I'm just blanking right now, but Avraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov, it's hard to say they didn't have an intimate relationship with the Rebbeinu Shalom when the Rebbeinu Shalom revealed himself to each of them, right? But what don't we find by Avraham or Yitzchak or Yaakov when it comes to their intimate relationship with Hashem? Not, God forbid, to knock them, but just to point out tonight's teaching. What don't we find?
Conversation.
Or more than that, like they're not really crying to him ever. Even Yaakov, when he has a really great opportunity to cry, he does t'naim. Im yeh Elokim imadi ushmarani baderech. If you're with me, then I'll be with you.
Well, Avram sort of does for Sdom.
It's interesting. He does for Sdom, and what happens in that moment? There is Geula there. Who's saved from there? Who's saved from Sdom?
Oh.
Who was the grandfather of Mashiach, right? But when it comes to like his own people, there is no his own people yet, so that's who he's going to cry over. But even there, he's not really crying. We're talking about over here, the way Moshe, here it seems already now that there's a people, you have to cry over them. So we're not knocking Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Until you have a family, what are you going to cry over? So they didn't have that yet, that much. But even what we see is like, there's revelations, but it's nothing, it's not Vayizaku Vatal Shavatam El Hashem. Why? Because maybe we want to say Shin and Dalet and Yud, that's what they knew. What does that name resemble? That Hashem can do anything and everything. So if Hashem can do everything and anything, I don't need to cry over it because Hashem can do it. But that's not the purpose of creation. Purpose of creation is, yes, I know Hashem can do everything and anything, but He's waiting for me to activate that crying button. And many times in our lives, what stops us from activating the crying button? What prevents us from going there to that place of Vayizaku Batal Shavatam El Hashem?
It'll make a difference.
I think you're.
What's that? You don't want to be. That's what I usually think.
No one's listening.
Oh, that's what you think. No one's listening. I'm saying what I always felt like what Miriam says is that I don't want to be a kvetcher, and it's just a misconception about. I don't know when we spoke about this last time. Maybe on what year it was, but it's just this misconception of understanding like it's true. Oh, we did this in your house the other day. What's a common phrase that everyone says? I hate asking things from people. We do that with Hashem too. I don't want to be a kvetcher. But the revelation of Yud Kei Vav Kei is that maybe the Ribono Shel Olam was just waiting for you. His whole life, our whole lives, that you realize that by Hashem it works differently. The Geula starts when you believe that you will be heard, Yossi. And that the point is that Hashem set up your life, whatever it was, to be a kvetcher. Not a kvetcher like, like the way we use that terminology. Of like, oh, you're always kvetching, you can't just look at the good. And when an Egyptian standing over me with a whip, right, day and night, and our babies are being chucked into the river or put into brick walls, complaining doesn't fall under the category of being a kvetcher. So, I don't think we're kvetching enough about the fact that Mashiach isn't here.
Yeah, we should be screaming.
You should be kvetching. You should be screaming. We should be, like the Rebbe said, every single day to scream Ad Masai. Till when? Till when? When do we say Ad Masai? When a pigua happens. Ad Masai. Then we get all excited. Huh? What do you mean? Soldiers say that?
They're not allowed to say it.
You don't know what to.
What do you mean?
Not allowed to say ad matai.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Because meaning, because they don't want to sound fetching. You're not allowed to fetch in the army.
Right.
Whenever they say ad matai, like instead of we're getting out of the army, they're not allowed to say it. Ask any soldier.
Wow. Well, we're in a different kind of army. In Civil Hashem army, we scream Ad Masai. Right. Like Masai. Anyway, I give us all a bracha to become redemptive Yidden of Geula. Yidden of Geula know that the closer I am to Hashem, the more I'm supposed to kvetch and complain about the fact that the Gilui Kvod Malchus isn't in the world yet. And that's the revelation, that's the atatiyah of this parsha. Now you're going to see, Moshe Rabbeinu, when you give over the message right, people will understand that the point of this relationship is not that I can do anything. You guys all know that. But it's that you should feel close enough to cry out to me. And that is like a very important piece in the way we relate to Tefillah Bichlal. And to really understand what it is we're asking for and what it is we're actually not asking for. A miracle that to happen right now, it probably wouldn't do that much. But to daven for it, to cry over the fact that Hashem's name and His kavod is not revealed enough in the world, to be able to cry over that, you have to feel close. You have to mamish feel close. So therefore, any relationships you have in your life, and it's really like we're entering an era where, and I feel this very strongly, is that the energy of closeness has to be in all your social scenes as well. Like check yourself, how many of the conversations, and whether it's at people's houses for meals or even amongst friends, is like, half of it is just like interesting sarcasm or just quoting lines from sitcoms in the 80s and those kind of things, or how much is it like more talking about you're also in pain, that like you're also in pain, right? Yeah. And by the way, like I saw another Torah, it says that when Hashem started to reveal, when this revelation would happen, so this was happening, the Yidden had Shabbos every Shabbos when they were in Mitzrayim, till the end when Paro took that away as well. But what happened is that when Jews started getting together, Moshe Rabbeinu, it's a whole story, he came to Paro and he said to them, I figured out a way that they could be even better slaves, is if you give them one day off, they could work like even bigger horses during the week. So that was Shabbos. Yismach Moshe b'matnas chelka. The chelik of Moshe Rabbeinu, he gave Yidden Shabbos. So Rabbi Shlomo said, you know what they would do on Shabbos when they got together? They were so amazed when they started having a real conversation, when they realized that they're all crying over the same thing. They couldn't imagine that someone else is crying over the same thing. So when you find a person that is crying over the same thing that you're crying over, that's a redemptive relationship. And that's how it started. That's how it started. That's how it should continue, Bezrat Hashem, until we have enough closeness amongst ourselves to finally pull down that last veil that's standing between us and welcoming Mashiach Tzidkeinu B'meir B'yameinu Amen. All right, Shekach, everyone. Thanks for coming. It should be a beautiful and redemptive rest of your week. Bezrat Hashem Yitbarach.
Happy New Year.
L'chaim. There's a great story.
Are you off?
No, I'll tell you a great story though. There's a great story. Reb Motel Chernobler, Shoshana, you'll love this story. Maybe you know this story. You know the Chernobler New Year's Eve story? It's a great story. Reb Motel Chernobler, every year, and like around midnight, December 31st, he asked the Chevra to come and bring a l'chaim, to make a l'chaim at midnight. So Chassidim were like, what? What are you talking about? He's like, just bring it, right? So they bring the bar, makes l'chaim, taking the show. The Rebbe does it. You listen. What are you gonna? The Rebbe does it. What's the shayla? So, I don't know who had the guts to actually come to the Rebbe and say, what is going on over here, right? So he says, listen, everything Hashem tzilcha, everything that happens down here, there's a shadow of it happening up there, right? There's only one night a year where people that are strangers walk around on the street wishing each other something nice. It only happens one night a year, New Year's Eve, right? So in Shamayim, even though this day means nothing in the Olam HaEmes, but the fact that there's one night a year people are walking around telling each other happy something, whatever it is, New Year's, Shema Year's, in Shamayim they're saying l'chaim over it also. So l'chaim. It's still, it's 9:15. It's
Yeah, we need a little bit to the ball fall.
yeah. All right, Yeshekach, everyone. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim.